y'all, it's Kim again. So in the JFK documents, they have this name right here, this KUBARK, Counterintelligence Interrogation. I mean, you see it all the time, and this is from July 1963. So just a few months before Kennedy was killed. But anyway, here's just like their table of contents. I'm not going to read all this. Structure of interrogation, all that stuff, theory of coercion, arrest, detention. That's even in this Senate torture reporting as well. I just thought I'd at least read the first little introduction. All right, so introduction, explanation of purpose. This manual cannot teach anyone how to be or become a good interrogator. At best, it can help readers to avoid the characteristic mistakes of poor interrogators. Its purpose is to provide guidelines for KUBARK interrogation, and particularly the counterintelligence interrogation of resistant sources. Designed as an aid for interrogators and others immediately concerned, it is based largely upon the published results of extensive research, including scientific inquiries conducted by specialists in closely related subjects. There is no mysterious there's nothing mysterious, about interrogation. It consists of no more than obtaining needed information through responses to questions. As is true of all craftsmen, some interrogators are more able than others, and some of their superiority may be innate. But sound interrogation nevertheless rests upon a knowledge of the subject matter and on certain broad principles, chiefly psychological, which are not hard to understand. The success of good interrogators depends in large measure upon their use, conscious or not, of these principles and a process and techniques deriving from them. Knowledge of subject matter and of the basic principles will not of itself create a successful interrogation, but it will make possible the avoidance of mistakes that are characteristic of poor interrogation. The purpose then is not to teach the reader how to be a good interrogator, but rather to tell him what he must learn in order to become a good interrogator. The interrogation of a resistant source who is a staff or agent member of an orbit intelligence or security service of a clandestine communist organization is one of the most exacting of professional tasks. Usually the odds still favor the interrogator, but they are sharply cut by the training, experience, patience, and toughness of the interrogatee. In such circumstances, the interrogator needs all the help he can get. And a principal source of aid today is scientific findings. The intelligence service, which is able to bring pertinent modern knowledge to bear upon its problems, enjoys huge advantages over a service which conducts its clandestine business in 18th century fashion. It is true that American psychologists have devoted somewhat more attention to communist interrogation techniques, particularly brainwashing, than to U.S. practices. Yet they have conducted scientific inquiries into pain and fear, hypnosis, and heightened suggestibility, narcosis, etc. This work of sufficient importance and relevance that is no longer possible to discuss interrogation significantly without reference to the psychological research conducted in the past decade. For this reason, a major purpose of this study is to focus relevant scientific findings upon CI interrogation. Every effort has been made to report and interpret these findings in our own language in place of the terminology employed by the psychologists. This study is by no means confined to a resume and interpretation of psychological findings. The approach of the psychologist is customarily manipulative. That is, they suggest methods of imposing controls or alterations upon the interrogatee from the outside. except when the communist frame of reference, or within the communist frame of reference, they have paid less attention to the creation of internal controls, i.e., conversion of the source, so that voluntary cooperation results. Moral considerations aside, the imposition of external techniques of manipulating people carries with it the grave risk of later lawsuits, adverse publicity, or other attempts to strike back, and an explanation of organization. This study moves from the general topic of interrogation per se, parts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, to planning the counterintelligence interrogations, part 7, to the CI interrogation of resistant sources, parts 8, 9, and 10. The definitions, legal considerations, and discussions of interrogators and sources, as well as section 6 on screening and other preliminaries, are relevant to all kinds of interrogations. Once it is established that the source is probably a counterintelligence target, in other words, is probably a member of a foreign intelligence or security service, a communist, or a part of any other group engaged in clandestine activity directed against the national security. The interrogation is planned and conducted accordingly. The CI interrogation techniques are discussed in an order of increasing intensity as the focus on source resistance grows sharper. The last section on do's and don'ts is a return to the broader view of the opening parts as a checklist. It is placed last solely for convenience. All right, so I'm going to stop it here, and then we'll just keep rolling with these because this stuff's kind of fascinating to me. It is, in my opinion, but whatever. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.